All right, this is the 5150 interview series in Bulldozer Magazine on 4th of July, a lovely Independence Day here at the complex in Glendale, and also Apocalyptic Day. I'm here with Tristan Schoen of Author and Punisher, the one-man apocalyptic industrial doom mastermind. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Glad to be speaking to you again.
Yeah, happy 4th. Yeah.
Yeah. Tonight, this audience has no idea to what level you're going to open up their minds and their ears. Let's backtrack a little bit. You've been getting a lot of press lately. When I first experienced you about 5 years ago, it was very eye-opening to me to see what one man with determination and definitely creativity could create. You created, what is your machine called?
Well, there are a bunch of machines, several different versions. This is an older version called the Drone Machines. I had an album called Drone Machines, and then I've kind of combined it with a lighter. I basically stacked the two sets of machines on top of each other: dub machines, drone machines, and some masks. So they're all just now it's just a potpourri of various machinery.
What was interesting for me was when I first experienced you, I thought you were heavily influenced by like the early 90s, late 80s industrial scene, KMFDM, you know, all that stuff. But you're not.
Not really, no.
And this is what's very interesting. You make it a point to point that out. Does it bother you that someone who is not experienced with your live shows and your music tags you as that?
No, not at all. I mean, it's nice to go back and listen to some of that stuff. It's strange, you know, but those guys, I bet you were listening to death metal and electronic and some hardcore when they were younger. They weren't just listening to industrial, so it probably came from a similar place. But when you live in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire, you're not, you don't know about, you know, New Botan and Godflesh until you get into high school. When you're in elementary school, there's Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and, you know, the Beatles, maybe Guns N' Roses or something. That's it. So it doesn't bother me at all.
Your music is very universal. What I mean by that is when I watch you play, there are usually parameters with musicians where you kind of become somewhat desensitized to their show. Mm-hmm. You know, you're familiar with their, you know, it's like a ritual, so to speak. Your shows are completely different. Regardless of what mood you're in, your music and the fact that it's, I don't want to use the word machines because there's a human element to it, unlike other so-called industrial artists. But let's get this straight. Yeah. You're not an industrial musician. No. And I don't like to classify you, but what would you term what you do?
I mean, I would describe it as industrial doom metal. You know, I really feel like the doomy, bluesy riffs are still at the heart of what I do. But I take away. I also feel like there is a sense of electronic drum and bass, dubstep. I know that's kind of become like a bad term within the metal community, but it's only because metal people only knew two dubstep bands, you know, and they're very ignorant about it. There's a lot of great music there from the UK, and so mixing the two together, but then taking away the robotic element. I really try to make it organic. Everything is live. I don't play sequences. If I stop moving or I want to slow it down, and I try to keep it, it's almost like, I would even consider it to be more jazz-related, improv, acid jazz than it is industrial. Because industrial is so fixed and locked into the clock. You know, the clock is boring. People get bored by it. They start like it's predictable. And so I take heavy industrial music and move it out of that, make it into something that's more organic. Even though it looks robotic, people look closer because it's not. You know, these things don't have motors in them. You know,
and that's what's the frightening thing about your live shows, let alone listening to you on vinyl. What's frightening about your live shows, and I say this in a good way, is that you're up there and you're seeing that this whole wall of sound, this apocalyptic wall of sound, is being created by one man. You are heavier than most heavy so-called bands.
Yeah, I agree. No, but that's...
it's true.
There's a difference. I've also toned down the amount of speakers I bring. I used to have stacks and stacks of speakers. And then I realized that actually, if you just use the sound system wisely, as small as it may be, you can sound better. You know, when people can actually hear something, it's heavier than it actually. I mean, I don't mean here, but the clarity. You know, so that's That's what I've been trying to aim for. Being a little smarter about it.
Well, this is interesting. Not only have you been playing to new audiences, because you have been, Phil Anselmo has been interested in you for a while. You are now on his label.
Yep.
You just released a new record. Please don't let me butcher this. Milk and Honing.
Perfect.
Housecore Records. You've gone out on tour with Phil Ensemble's band, the Illegals.
Yep.
You've been playing to the Phil Ensemble heavy crowd and the Pantera crowd. How is that community accepting your music? Do they get it? Are they bewildered by it? Are they tripping on it? Talk to me about that.
The first few shows for sure, there was some heckling going on. There was like I said, the ignorant classifying my music as like Skrillex or Deadmau5 or something. That's basically like, it's a bunch of, I'm not going to say anything. It's a bunch of people that basically think electronic music is two people, But anyway, that's cool. They're getting old, that's fine. But slowly, Phil gets up there afterwards and says, what the fuck are you guys talking about? He sticks up for me and says, you need to listen to this. So the guy just, he doesn't care what's behind, the sound. He just listens to it. He's like, oh, that's heavy and that's this and that's. So it's been, I've loved working with the guy.
No. You just released your new record again. Let me mention this. This is on Housecore Records. Milk and Honing. Amazing record. Every time that I listen to your new stuff, this is the follow-up, by the way, to Women and Children.
Yep.
Every time I listen to your albums, I usually comment and tell musicians that there's this growth, that there's this whole other level that they're going to. But with you, it's interesting. Not only do I observe that, but I notice that on some songs, you're actually putting more of a personal feeling to it. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think maybe the vocals, that would come out. One thing that happened when we were recording is Phil, I think he went into the record thinking we were going to make a noise record. I think when he would see me play live, because I think that's kind of how he judges people the most, sees what they're like live. Yeah. And it was a bit of chaos. I didn't sing too much live. And when I got into the studio and I had some vocal melodies, he didn't let me, kind of hide them. He said, oh, wait, let's single that out, do it again, clear it up. Oh, can you not put so much scratch on your voice there? Oh, let's layer it with some harmonies. And so we ended up doing these, 3-part harmonies on some of the heavier stuff, which was a kind of a unique. And he threw out a couple songs that were maybe a little bit on the, I don't know, just maybe I wasn't totally prepared. So I wrote a few songs at his house.
Okay.
And that was great because I was under the gun with these guys, working directly with them. And I just think it's a really unique experience, inspired by his giant compound that he lives on. So
what's interesting is I would say you've been on the cutting edge of the industrial doom, quote unquote.
Yeah.
What I like about what you're doing is the fact that not only do I feel you really also put a DIY punk ethic into it. Would that be correct?
A little bit. It's definitely, I think I've learned what's important. I've really focused on the live setup, and I think there's certain elements of touring and just you can't be too picky, like what to focus on. If that's kind of what you mean. We tour around and we try to make the live set good, but we don't get too picky about we have to use MacBook Pros and we have to use all this really expensive equipment. We do things kind of DIY.
What I like is that unlike most musicians who make a stage show, your show is perceived as a stage show for someone who's never experienced it before, but it's not. You're up there doing it raw. That is what I like, because every time I see you play, you are not predictable. Now tell me, these new songs that you're going to be performing, have you experienced these songs in a live setting yet? And what was the reaction?
Oh yeah, yeah. We just toured with them for.
They're a little ugly, dude.
From December, starting at Housecore Festival.
Yeah.
That was one of the first performances, and then we went to Europe a couple times. But I'm saying this because Will Cutmod, who does all the visuals with me, has become a big part of it. Every song has its own identity visually and with the song, so we kind of work through the ideas and for each part what we want on the screen.
So you choreograph that?
Yeah, we choreograph it together, and every sound that's coming out of what I'm doing here is plugging directly into his whole video setup. So every kick, every snare, every pitch and melody is a different thickness of a line. It's really beat reactive. But yeah, we've toured these songs a bit. So tonight, what you'll see is definitely it's relatively polished.